Welcome to Phoenix Rising with Dr. Z. This podcast is all about conversations about healing and rising from the ashes of your grief and trauma. I'm your host, Dr. Christina Zampitella. It is my sincere hope that this podcast is going to give you the words and the understanding to help you heal through your grief and trauma. Hi, I am Dr. Zampitella with Phoenix Rising with Dr. Z, and today we are going to be talking about chronic and life-threatening illness in a very unique way. Everybody's story is very different, has its own pathway, has its own synchronicities and strange ways of presenting themselves. Everybody has their own story, right? Just like everybody has their own grief story. So today we're going to be speaking with Annika, and I'm going to have Annika introduce herself, and then we're going to talk about what she is experiencing and what she is navigating in her own life. We're going to talk about a little of the history leading up, probably not get into too much beforehand because our previous episode, if you've been watching that, really dove into an episode where somebody had shared their story completely leading up in a lot of detail and then how their lives adjusted accordingly. And now what we want to focus on is a broad overview of what happened in leading up to diagnoses, and then from there moving forward and what it's been like. And so that's our goal for today's episode. Annika, please introduce yourself, and thank you. And I hope you viewers, you're gonna love her anyway. So
thank you.
Yeah.
So we've known each other since 2020.
We were trying to figure that out. I think it's 20.
No,
anyway, yeah, 5 years. Let's just say 5. Okay.
Let's say 5 years. Okay. So, and just in terms of disease background, really quickly, I was originally diagnosed with very serious thyroid disease when I was 17. It runs in my family. On the female side, I was in complete denial as a 17-year-old. I was just like, I'm having hot flashes. I have to leave the movie theater. I get moody and angry, and my hands are shaking, and I'm losing weight, and I just feel like I'm bouncing off the walls. And went for my annual dental checkup, and it was my dentist, a female dentist who was very well versed on her field and other medical things, and she said, you need to get your thyroid checked, and led to a very quick doctor's visit, which led to surgery within weeks. And it basically cured the illness. For 15 years. When I was 30, I was in graduate school. The stress and autoimmune diseases they're not good friends. And I started feeling the similar symptoms and went back and was treated with radioiodine. So I have no thyroid and have since then been medicated, and everything was fine. So it's like you get a serious diagnosis, but there's a solution, right? There's surgery. The surgery works great for 15 years, you get a medication, the medication works great, and now you're on the supplement and everything's wonderful. But autoimmune diseases like to travel not even in pairs, in clumps. And so since then, I have successively been diagnosed with a whole series of other autoimmune diseases. So now I count 5.
Can you list those?
So originally is Graves' disease. Then I have Raynaud's, which is the cold chill thing that happens with your hands and feet, where you just go completely numb and have like no thermoregulation. It also infects your internal organs, but you don't really know that. I have something called MGUS, which is monoclonal gammopathy of unspecified significance, which I know is a
The fact you can even say it is impressive.
Right? But it's a precursor to multiple myeloma. So everybody who ends up with multiple myeloma at some point had MGUS. Everyone who has MGUS does not end up with multiple myeloma, so it's one of those blood tests, watch and wait. I have Sjogren's disease, which is a disease where all of your moisture-producing organs in your body are attacked. So I virtually have no tears, I have virtually no saliva, and same thing, it also affects your everything you can imagine. Your body needs to stay moist, right? Internally,
so you have
externally.
To be chronically dehydrated?
I am chronically dehydrated, and I'm chronically chewing gum, and I have massive dental issues because you need your saliva, right? And no matter what I do, every time I go to the dentist, which is like every 3 to 4 months, there is some major issue. And she says, you're in the top 1% in hygiene, but your teeth crumble. Like they break at the gum line, unannounced, it's yes. And then there's the whole insurance specter where dental isn't covered. This isn't considered a medical issue. How they work that, I don't know, but they do. And then I have...
Because they're sneaky little fucks.
Yeah,
Sorry.
well, the medical industry is not in your favor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Excuse my language. I have feelings.
I have very
a lot
strong
of strong feelings.
Yes, and we've all
Yes.
battled insurance companies
Absolutely.
and doctors and things. So yeah, and then I have lymphoma because I had an incidental finding of a lung nodule, which is, again, it's in a wait and watch. So I'm in a very kind of like, my doctors consider me to be a healthy sick person, if that makes any sense.
So you're in limbo.
I am in limbo, but I'm also constantly battling these things that are happening in my body and, grinding fatigue. I have total exercise intolerance. I still try. I still go play tennis, but I'm like, my heart rate goes through the roof and I have to sit down and sometimes it makes me cry. I still go to the gym. I try to stay really active. The dental thing, staying on top of that, eyes being so dry. I just recently, after a long insurance battle, got scleral lenses, which are these little saline-filled lenses that you pop and covers the whole front of your eye. But they're $12,000. And it's like, and same thing there, the insurance company doesn't want to cover, right? But you have to go through all the steps. And I think what I can say, and I don't know what your experience with this has been, is it is so important as a person who has a whole plethora of diseases, and it's probably true even if you have one defined disease, you have got to become an advocate.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot sit back and say, well, the doctor didn't want to run this test, or I don't know. You have to keep track of everything. You have to find the best doctors. You have to be willing. I travel 3.5 hours to Johns Hopkins. I travel 4.5 hours to Sloan Kettering. Mm-hmm. And I'm privileged to be able to do that, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a recognition too that not everyone has the time or the money or the resources or a companion.
Right.
My husband goes with me on all these trips. So, but being able to do that, to take charge of your well-being and your medical needs. Mm-hmm. And I've also built, a wonderful care team, and I have really good rapport with them. So they also know that when I ask them something, they respond very kindly and promptly. And they, I'm not wasting their time, they're not wasting my time, and we're a team together trying to figure this out. And in addition to that, I have, for a long time, in one case for decades, I've been signed up for clinical trial studies or long-term medical studies, longitudinal studies, where I give up time, body fluids, samples, tissue samples, days of my time to go to the NIH. I'm also part of something called a CP3 cancer study, longitudinal cancer study, way before I got the lymphoma diagnosis. So I was just supposed to be one of the healthy control people. Yeah, surprise, surprise.
That's interesting.
So I try to give back, and I just find it so empowering because, I'm sharing my body, my illness with people who are genuinely doing research, trying to make us better. But I also think of all the people coming behind me that are going to get better.
It sounds like that's around like benefit finding and meaning making.
Yes.
So I'm going to, I think that's really important for us to revisit even as we're moving forward today, because I think that's part of us being able to figure out how to live with something that is chronic and or life-threatening. Is how do we make it meaningful, because it feels so meaningless in so many ways. So I want to come back to that if that's okay. Let's put a pin in that.
Yeah.
And another part, it's interesting that you bring up medical, and I think we need to talk about coping as well. But when you're talking about being able to navigate advocating for yourself and being able to do that, interesting how the last episode we talked about this medical jargon and how we're not taught. Like I even said, like I have not had to learn how to carry an egg around all day long with a partner in my school for home ec and make sure to take care of that. I needed somebody to teach me how to navigate, health insurance and medicals. Where are my real life skills? But anyway, let me back up. Because there's so many routes I can go. Like, okay.
And also just want to put a pin in one other thing. When you're talking about meaning making, I think the other part of it that I was talking about with getting to know your providers well and being a team with them is it's about control. Because this, just like with other grief and loss, the thing you have lost is control.
Okay.
It's not just meaning, it's control. You have
Yeah.
your body, not your brain, your body is doing something that you
Right.
cannot, you didn't ask for, you didn't choose it, you can't steer it, you can't stop it. And it's all new.
Right.
Also. So it's like you are in this whirlwind suddenly after diagnosis where you're like scrambling to figure out
Yep.
how to cope. And to your point, how to then, I think it's almost like the control comes first and then the meaning making.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
'Cause you can't, if you don't have control, you can't
Right.
make meaning of something that's chaos.
Without a doubt, yes. Put all the things, all these things for sure. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to back up to the point where it sounds like progressively you were being diagnosed with multiple diagnoses.
Yes.
Is that true? Okay.
Right.
So, you get one diagnosis, and the very first one you received was
When I was 17, that was Graves' disease.
Graves'
right.
disease, which is in and upon itself, that's thyroid, the
Right.
whole
Yeah, so it's-
adrenal thyroid, that right pituitary axis,
Right.
is that right?
Right.
So, because I know there's multiple different
Right.
kinds of disease.
And it's a super hyperactive thyroid
Okay.
to the point where you are in overdrive.
Okay.
Your whole body.
So it's not
is
like
just
hypothyroid where people feel lethargic.
It's the
and they get
it's
synthroid,
exactly
and
the
it's like
opposite.
exactly the opposite
Yes.
of that.
Yeah.
So then you're living with that, and again, I'm not gonna. I want to know your whole story. I'm
Yeah,
sure
but-
a lot
right.
of us want to know our whole
Right.
story. But and then you live with that for 15 years. You get into graduate school, and then you're diagnosed with
Same thing again.
Same thing
because
again.
the surgery took half of my thyroid out.
Not
Very
the whole
skilled
thing.
surgeon, again, a woman, wonderful surgeon in Sweden, who at that point the surgeries were to take partial thyroidectomies.
Okay.
So she took just the right amount, so I didn't actually even need any medication,
Oh, wow.
maintenance medication. She was brilliant.
Okay.
But the stress of graduate school, as I said, stress and autoimmune disease are not good bedfellows. They,
Right.
it just amped up my whole stress level, which seemed to have awakened it again.
It inflamed your body.
It inflamed my body,
And
right.
that talks a lot about, again, coping, but we'll come back. Okay, so then how long before you're diagnosed with your next diagnosis?
Probably about 20 years. It wasn't until like in my 50s.
Okay.
Yeah,
50s.
early, like late 40s.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, same thing as with the thyroid disease. A lot of these autoimmune diseases are, as opposed to your diagnosis, they come very slow and creeping. So you get used to, you get inured into this sort of like, I'm not that bad. I lost a little weight, or I gained a little weight.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, right?
yeah.
Because that talks about a lot about the trajectory of chronic illness, because chronic illness is so different than when we start talking about terminal illness. A chronic illness can shift into terminal, but chronic is like this kind of weird up and down trajectory, right?
Right.
And then terminal has this up and down trajectory that kind of eventually goes down, or it goes like, a
Right.
little across and then it nosedives.
Nosedives.
And there's a lot of different trajectories. So this period of time where, okay, so you had the diagnosis, you had the partial thyroidectomy. Oh, it is. Okay,
Yeah.
I was going to screw that word up.
No, you did it.
And then you had blind squirrel finds a
Yeah,
nut once in a while. And then you got to graduate school, then the other
had
part of your
kids, yeah,
kids, and so
right,
that
right.
ends up
Yeah.
being removed, the rest of it removed.
Right.
And then it's another 20 years before the second
much.
diagnosis. What was that like living with with no thyroid for that 20
Easy,
years?
because
That
it was
easy.
literally
Okay.
a pill a day. It was Synthroid, right?
Oh,
Just take
okay.
your Synthroid and stay on
Synthroid
top
too.
of it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a wonderful drug. It works really well for a lot of us. And so I almost didn't think about that it was a chronic illness in a way. It was like it had a solution, right? And I think that's the thing that's gotten different for me is when I first got my diagnosis, both times, the 17 and the 30, I felt like there were solutions. Like, oh, okay, you have Graves' disease. We do surgery. Oh, you have it again. We do
More
radiation
hope.
treatment. More hope. There are solutions, right? Answers.
Okay.
Simple trajectories of like, this is how we fix this. And you take Synthroid and you're good. These other diseases, particularly Sjogren's disease, which is the dryness, moisture producing, attacking, there is no cure.
And that occurred 20 years later?
Later, yes.
Can I ask you a little question as I
Sure.
interrupt you?
Yeah.
Do you think it was related to perimenopause and menopause?
I know that it primarily hits women, but that's true for a lot of autoimmune disease. Not at all unlikely that that's the case.
I mean, because we all deal with it
Right.
anyway, and nobody wants to talk about
Right,
it.
right.
But I talk about it because.
Yeah, oh, me too. I talk about everything.
I
I have no boundaries.
Well, I mean, medicine needs
Yes.
to catch up.
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
So,
Right.
and there's a lot of amazing physicians out there that are paying attention
Yes,
to
there
it.
are.
So I was just wondering, just because women talk about how they change,
Right.
I understand this is a disease, but I was wondering if there
Well,
was
I
a
think what
relationship.
might happen too is all those changes that you go through in perimenopause and menopause, you're sort of like, how do you tease out one from the other?
Exactly.
Right? So like we'll talk about, vaginal dryness, for
Yep.
example. Is that something that's happening because of menopause? Should I be taking HRT or
Yep.
is that this disease? Well, it turns out it's all of the above, right? And they overlap.
And you can't-
And how do you tease them apart?
You can't.
Do you even need to tease them apart? Do you
Right.
just try to treat the best way you can?
Because you already knew at that point that there was no cure,
Right.
but it was not life-threatening.
Right, except for some people with Sjogren's disease go on to have organ failure. So it's
Okay,
got
so
this
it can
little
be.
thing sitting on your shoulder all the
Okay.
time that you may be the person that has, painfully dry eyes, no saliva, you're going to choke on your food, you're going to have all these issues, you're going to have the fatigue, you're going to have I can't thermoregulate properly, I can't go in a hot tub, I can't go in a sauna, I can't go in cold water, my whole body just freaks out and shuts down, or I overheat. But okay, so I don't do those things. That's not life-altering, but I
That
also,
wasn't life-altering?
Well,
Not being
I mean,
able to do those things?
it's acceptable. It's within me. It's within
Okay.
the realm of like I
Okay.
can deal with those being boundaries that I now have. I'm
That's
okay with that.
important. That's
Yes.
important for us to talk because
Yeah.
I think for some people with chronic illness, it's like, okay, there's a certain level or a certain range of things I can go, okay, well, I can work
Mm-hmm.
around that and not worry about it. But there's got to be a point for some people
Yes.
where it's like, I'm giving up so much that
I
it
see it
is
all the time.
altering. Yeah, so
Yes.
it does alter my life.
I am on a couple of pages of support pages of groups for this illness
Mm-hmm.
and some other illnesses, and you see it in people where
Yeah.
they give up, and it's very difficult to watch because part of me is like, no, don't give up. Don't do that to yourself. Even though this disease is doing this to you, you have to. Just as when you and I first met, and just to bring everybody up to speed, I lost my son to an overdose, and Christina was my grief therapist and did wonderful, really difficult work with me. But we hung in there for 2 years and I am here today because of the work that I did with you.
You did a lot of work.
We did a lot of work. We
I
all
was-
did a lot of
I
work.
cheered
So,
you on.
yeah.
You kicked ass. Okay.
Similarly, I cannot, for me personally, I'm not the person who's going to get a diagnosis, sit back and say, oh, well, I give up.
That's not your personality.
It's not my personality. Doesn't mean I'm not grieving all these losses. It doesn't mean that I don't have moments where I'm like, get all. I really wish I wasn't having to go through this. I wrote a little note to you about thoughts around chronic illness and the fact that there's both a difference and a parallel to a loss by death, in that you and I having a chronic illness, you wake up to this reality every morning. Similarly, I wake up to the reality that my son is dead.
You're
every
cornered.
morning. You're cornered. With my son, his being dead is never going to change, right? And so I've had to learn how to integrate that and accept that. With the illness, it's going to change, and it's not going to change most likely to the better. So as opposed to when I had my first diagnosis and they said, we can fix this, I am now faced with illnesses that they say, sorry, we do not have any cures. And sorry, you will probably get worse, but we don't know. You may or may not. So you're in this limbo.
Yeah.
And you have to find peace in that limbo.
And then imagine, we're going to talk about how you do that because that is hard, especially
is.
with the ups and downs and the changes of medication and your
Right.
responses to medications. And medications have been working and all of a sudden they stop and they get to screw around with the dosages. Then the limitations in your life and all the things. So, okay. And then, so you're navigating this, you're doing the best you can. You're actually treating symptoms versus treating the disease because the disease cannot be,
Right.
Cannot be, okay. So
Pretty much.
then you're diagnosed with, and how much, okay, so that was 20 years later, then you were diagnosed with.
Right, so then we go through COVID, and I get a gastrointestinal issue that won't go away. I mean, but we're 10 days and I'm quite sick, and I end up fainting, which I've never done. And we're thinking, oh, it's dehydration and tired. I go to the hospital, actually to the ER. Never been to the ER before in my life. My husband was like, you're going to the ER. And they do a CT scan of my abdomen, and it catches, incidentally, the bottom of my lung. And they come back and they say, you know you have nodules on your lungs. I'm like, no, I do not. So that then suddenly is a new finding, which triggers meet a pulmonologist, meet a cardiothoracic surgeon. And again, it's interesting with advocating for yourself, because I will tell you that the pulmonologist basically said my lung had to come out. And I said, really? Well, there are options. Nope. If it's a tumor and it's cancer, the only thing we can do, we get it out. And I said, well, what if we take it out and it's not? He said, well, then we'll know. And I said, do I really want to lose a lung over this? But then again, here you are faced with these impossible decisions. I, as a patient, have to decide, do I trust this pulmonologist who says, Wednesday's surgery day, we can do you next week.
Right.
And it will take you at least 6 months to recover. And yes, you will have much lessened lung function. Or do I push on and say, I need a second opinion. I need to go elsewhere. So that did trigger me to have conversations with other people who have had cancer and who said, you need to go to one of the top hospitals instead. Do not do this level of care, which then brought me to Sloan Kettering in New York and a needle biopsy, which confirmed that it was a low-grade B-cell lymphoma, but of the level where they said, we can just watch and wait. We do not have to do any treatments yet.
That's weird, because mine's B-cell leukemia.
B-cells they go haywire, right? Right. But it's just,
All
and
the
so it's like you
things.
just feel like you just keep
Right.
getting hit with one thing after another.
One thing
and
after another.
And are they related?
And what does that mean? Because I think you were
Right.
telling me earlier, like that could have been around a while.
Right. They also said, we do not know because we don't have a scan from you for 5 years ago or 10 years ago. This is our first scan, so this is our baseline. You could have had this nodule from childhood and it has never grown or never changed. But then from one scan to the next, it suddenly grew 2.5 centimeters. So they were like, okay, this puts you in a different bucket. But again, blood tests, the needle biopsy, PET scans, CT scans are saying, right now it's sitting tight.
So
I basically forget that I
white
have
blood
lymphoma until I talk to
cells,
someone and I'm like, oh yeah, right, I
neutrophils,
have lymphoma too.
Gotcha. So neutrophils.
The whole, right, we do all the blood work.
And all of that's normal.
All that, well, I don't know if it's normal, but it's in the okay range.
In the ish, we'd just watch it kind of thing.
Right.
But it looms.
It looms, but I often
Okay.
actually do literally forget it. In the beginning, I'm curious to hear what you had to say about that when you get a diagnosis like that, when the word cancer is raised, right?
Jesus.
You instantly go to, I'm going to die.
Oh, I'll tell you my story. I mean, I know that it's on the thing, but I'll bring it back up. We can talk about that in a sec. I want to be happy to. What a freaking nightmare that was. So you're diagnosed with this, and it's not related.
Actually, it probably is.
I was going to say, how is it not?
Right.
Okay.
It probably
all right.
is
Okay.
because, again, autoimmune is all about your immune
Fluid,
system.
all of it.
Right, and B cells are part of your immune system, and so it's probably an excess activity of these B cells. And so now I have been moved into beginning infusions for a medication that kills your B cells, which I will do next month.
And which one is that?
It's called rituximab. It's used for a number of cancers.
It is.
Right? It's used pretty broadly. It's used for people with severe rheumatoid arthritis. But I think my Hopkins doctors and my Sloan Kettering doctors are all like, given the picture that I have and all these different pieces, this infusion might help bring everything down and calm everything down, which would be wonderful.
Be awesome.
Right. But it comes at the cost of I will no longer hardly have any B cells, which means my immune mechanism to defend myself against outward diseases, other pathogens, is out the window.
Right.
Potentially.
Right. So,
but
real
potentially,
fun.
apparently not everyone who goes on rituximab has higher rates of infection.
Right.
Some people do, some people don't. So Again, there's that unknown,
Yep.
right? Here, we have something for you, but it will hurt you, but help you, cure you, cause problems, right? It's very...
There's so
it's
much.
sticky.
It's sticky. There's so much limbo. What other emotions come up for you when you start thinking about all of this?
Oh, I mean, anger comes up of the sort of like the why me? You know, have I not had enough in my life? Do I really need to go through more? Is it enough to have, you know, first a disease that I had as a child, and then kind of feel like, okay, I've got back into my life and things are okay and I have children, and then to lose a child and feel like, okay, well, that is surely sort of the biggest, deepest loss and insult to your entire existence.
And
that you can suffer.
traumatically.
And traumatically.
Not
right.
that losing a child isn't
Right.
traumatically,
No,
but then
right.
there's traumatic loss, and then you've
Right.
got traumatic grief. But this was
Right.
quite a violation.
Right.
As
and
well.
after years and years of struggle of mental
Right.
illness and substance abuse. And so it's like carrying all of that and then coming, I mean, I'm not even coming out of that because this is all happening at the same time. You just feel like, oh, it's another, you know, another stab. The flip side of that is you almost get to, I have gotten to, or like, oh, bring it, another one. Like, I know how to do this. I know how to fight. I know that
Resiliency.
I'm not dead yet. You know, it's like,
Right.
yeah, it is resiliency and being able to
Yeah.
dig back into, well, if I could survive that and that and that, you know, there's that saying of thus far you have 100% survival rate for all the days that you've lived. Yeah, well, I do. I'm here.
But
So
suffering with it, though.
suffering with it and the sort
Like on
of
a
the
physical level, which
Right.
then... I know there's coping skills, and we can talk about those, but
Right.
I think I'm hearing you say, as much as I'm empowering myself, as much as I am talking to myself and saying, look, I made it this far. I got, you know, a huge skill set, a huge support system. I know how to navigate a medical system as best I can, and a lot of things that could build up with that. I wonder if there is, and if I'm putting this on you,
Yeah,
and it
no,
doesn't
no.
relate, and you just say, no, not me. But I wonder if there's a part of you, this, you know, why me part of you. What about that part of you? Like, what do you do with that
what do you
part
do?
of you?
Right. No, I mean, there's a part of me that says, you know, this sucks. This
Yeah, it
really
sucks.
And why me? And the realization that it's not going to get better. It's not going to go away. It will not be cured, and it will probably get worse. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of anger, I would say. There's not a lot of guilt in this because it's like, it's not that I did anything. You know, it's not like, oh, you got lung cancer from smoking and, oh, wow, why was I so stupid that I did that?
Right.
There's nothing that I could have done differently in my life. And it's also the frustration, obviously, of the hardship that it puts in your relationships, right? Having people around you that, in essence, also, and you probably are experiencing this now, not so much maybe during the worst part of your illness, but now that it's an invisible disease, right? We can walk around and go everywhere. When people look at us and say, now looking at this video, you guys look great. You look healthy, and you know, all this, but we're not.
No, and mine was, there was a time though, you looked at me and you were like, oh, you are sick, like really sick. But the epilepsy, no, you can't
it's
tell unless I
invisible.
do something. Exactly.
Right.
Which is very frustrating. 1 in 26 people have epilepsy. Think about how many people are
that is.
unseen.
Yeah.
And it's a range. Anyway, I don't want to turn this, happy to talk about that too. But yeah, it was invisible until the leukemia was invisible until it wasn't. And my leukemia, like, what did I notice? I noticed I was freaking tired, you know, for a few weeks. I mean, stupid tired. Like I could not function tired. But it became known when I lost 30 pounds in 30 days, had no hair, you know, running around emaciated, tired, going to, so there it was in front of you. And even now, now that I have found 15 of those pounds that I lost, because those are not the 30 pounds that I wanted to lose. Even with my like hair growing back, I know, you know, I looked very different. And a lot of people, oh my God, I love the short hair. I don't like the short hair. Like this, I'm not used
not
to this.
you.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to own it, that kind of
Right.
thing. So for me, it's still visible.
Well, yes, exactly. So
Right.
it's right, but it's visible and it's palpable in our bodies
But
for us.
you may not see that it's
that
it's
part.
not visible to you.
me.
If you never met me,
Right. No,
you
I would just think, wow, look at you. You look
got-
great.
look at the
Yeah,
hair.
Yeah. Love your hair, by the way. You have so much more than I do.
it's so much thicker. I
Yeah,
can't
it's
believe
great.
it.
Yeah.
But I'm not sad about that
Yeah,
part.
right.
But I mean, and we're all going to die from something, right? There's
Right.
also that part of like
not
invalidating
yet.
it, disenfranchising
Right.
it in a way,
But
but
not
also
yet, not
acknowledging
now.
it. But not now. Like I'm
Yeah.
not ready. The universe isn't done with me, and I'm not done with it.
Right. And-
but my
yeah.
body is not necessarily
It's-
listening to that.
Right.
line
And
of
there's
thinking.
also, then there's almost a feeling of, just a classic concept in disease that your body is betraying you somehow.
I
And
totally felt like that.
Right? I've treated you well.
Yes.
I've exercised and eaten and slept and therapy and mental health and
All the
socializing,
things.
education,
I'm
lifestyle.
not eating like crap, and
You're right.
but I would pick up my medication, and every time, and I still do. Every time I pick up that medication, I think there is that part of me. It's changed over time, but it's definitely still there. That part of me of like, my body has betrayed me. I've been an athlete my whole life. I can't say that. I don't
Right.
think chocolate's a food group. It is, but whatever. But
Yeah.
I exercise. I do the
Right.
things, mental
Right.
health, and all of that. But
Right.
of course, I've got like,
Right.
I still do things that are probably not in my best interest, right? So, but I look at that and I go, how much of like where's the line of, I feel confined in some ways, and
Yes.
I don't
Not by
want to
your own
feel
choice.
confined, right? Not by my own choice.
Right.
Like I would like when we went to Ireland a month ago. Let's say a month ago, and I remember we were going to take a red eye. And sleep is one of my main triggers for the epilepsy. So I'm thinking I had to create this whole thing about when we landed. I had to pay for an extra night at a hotel. So when we landed at 6 o'clock in the morning their time, which was like 1:30 or whatever our time, I knew I was going to have to go to sleep as soon as we went there versus my friends who were able to land and go out and about.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was envious
Yes.
and resentful about
Angry.
it. And angry about it and like sad. I was
Yes.
so sad. I was
Right.
like, I'm here for a week and I have to go to bed.
Bed,
Right.
right.
And then I'm like, well, you better get your sleep on track as quickly as possible. So there's this push pull of like,
Right.
I am restricted in some
Yes.
ways. And I still, just Wednesday, what is
Yeah.
it, Sunday?
Yeah.
Just Wednesday, I went and I got chemo because I still have to get it every 3 months.
Right.
And I'm like, do I burden, quote unquote, burden somebody? Which I could ask a billion people and nobody would feel burdened, but that's my shit. To take me up there and in case I just don't feel good coming back. So then I'm like, screw it, I can do it. It's whatever. It's a little bit 10-minute chemo, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So then Thursday, sorry to turn this around, but Thursday, the very next day, like I'm feeling okay.
Yeah.
And then I decided, okay, well, I want to work out a little bit.
Right.
And I get on my Peloton and halfway through, I feel like I'm going to vomit. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, oh my God. And then it hits me. You had chemo yesterday, dumbass.
Right.
Like,
Right.
And I lost this, I'm going to get upset.
Yeah.
I lost this compassion for myself.
Right.
And then I stopped and I thought,
Wait.
no,
Yeah.
this is where you get a chance to talk to that part of yourself that's scared
Yes.
and say, no, I'm going to take care of you.
Yeah.
So I got
Right.
off and I did a stretch.
There you go.
And then I laid down and I laid
Right.
low like the next day, like didn't push it.
But it still frustrates the
frustrates
crap out of us
so
that we
my
can't
God.
do what we want to do, right?
I have been and will continue to be an athlete my entire life, but it has taken, I feel, stuff from me.
Yes.
And I'm still working on what has it given me.
Right.
Because I'm still smack dab in the middle of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'm in treatment till April of 27.
Wow.
We're
It's a long way to go.
Yeah, hell yeah. And I don't get to ring that bell.
Right.
Which, by the way, you ring a bell when you're considered at the 5-year mark, which they call cured, right? So until, you hope to God you don't get it again. So I think that, here we are, October of 25. And I know that, like, they just told me 3 days ago, you don't have to get blood tests done every 2 weeks, once a month. I thought I graduated something.
Right.
And I did.
Yeah.
And I celebrated it, and I thought it was super cool.
Yeah.
And, I hugged my providers on the way out, and I'm like, thank you for saving my life. And if they think I'm weird, whatever, I'm Italian, that's what comes with it. We're touching.
Yeah, no, but it's those losses along the way.
Like, oh, that's important. Talk about that.
Well, so for me also, what has happened, again, because I have no moisture, if you ever think about when you have a cold and you lose your sense of smell, because your smell and your sense of taste, because your smell receptors actually sit in the mucous membranes up in your nose. You have taste buds tell you salty, sour, all that, but the actual taste lives up here.
Right.
I have almost no taste.
So you don't taste food?
I cannot hardly taste food. I also have no smell. And I will tell you that is, and there I'm going to get emotional, it's devastating. Think about when you have a memory and you think back to your grandmother's house, the smell of walking in the front door, or your school when you were a kid, or when you hug your husband, the smell of the nape of his neck.
Yeah, right.
When you pick up your cat, the smell. All these things, the smell of food, the smell of roses at the beach, when you go to the beach and you smell the ocean, you go to a city and you smell I can almost smell nothing. And so not only is it that I've lost all of that and I can't add new tastes and smells to my memory, I also cannot hang memories on smell. And so it feels like I've lost a dimension. It's almost like, it is losing senses, right?
It is.
It's not as bad as being blind or being deaf, but it's a very important part of my being and my moving through life.
It's the only sense that goes directly to your brain without going through any kind of processes like vision and hearing, where it goes through all this other
Which
stuff.
is why
this goes
when you
right
have
to
that
your
smell memory of
it
something
comes
that brings
like
you
that.
back to childhood, it happens like this.
Right.
I don't have those.
You don't have that.
And I have to sort of like imagine them. Right?
Does that work?
Then it's hard. It's almost impossible. But then every now and then I have a little breakthrough. For some reason, my body says, we're going to make a little bit of moisture today. And I'll be like, oh my God, this is like, and it's almost overwhelming because it's so wonderful. It is so, it's like joyful. It's a moment of absolute pure joy because I'm like, oh my God, I can smell. I can taste.
You can taste that.
I feel complete.
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
then it goes away again, and I'm like,
I wonder if that happens with other people's chronic illnesses, that there's times where they're feeling so much better.
Yeah.
And they hang on to that.
Yeah.
And then what happens when it
but
goes away?
But then it gets taken away from you again.
What's that like for
Right.
you?
It's just, you're back, like, it's like being slammed back in the closet again. You're like, oh, okay, well, but I'm also like knowing that they happen, and I can't anticipate when because it's completely random. You and I could be sitting here and I could start choking because I'm so dry, or I could suddenly smell, a candle. I have no control over it. There's nothing I can do to change it. It's just my body decides to do what it does. I think just like those kinds of losses too, which are same as the restraints on our ability to go for a hike, walk. I mean, I was in Italy a couple of years ago, Venice.
Oh.
Getting off. First of all, it was interesting because Venice doesn't smell good, right? So
no, it does not.
Like everybody's like, I'm like, I can't smell a thing, so I'm fine. But it's great.
But you have to walk everywhere.
But you have to walk everywhere, and we came off the the vaporettos, the boats from the airport, and I'm dragging a huge suitcase up and down those little stairs, and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm at that point like 63 years old, and I can't drag my own freaking suitcase, a couple of blocks in Venice. That's just like, it's both frustrating and humiliating, and just like, it's you've been robbed of something. And yet, for both of us, right, we also have to realize that, I mean, I'm older than you are, but like, as you age, then you also have to say, well, this is part of aging, right? I
just
don't
read my mind.
have, the same stamina that I used to.
Right.
But that the things that you're up against that you struggle with are different than people in your age group. You look around and you see, okay, well, they're not struggling with this.
Right. So much of it, of how much of this is integrated, you can only tease it out so much, but it becomes, it's all one thing at the same time.
Right. Yeah. But I think teasing it out to some degree is how I cope with it too.
And what do you mean by that?
So saying, okay, well, accepting my body cannot do this. Okay, but can I modify it? Can I go play tennis still? Yes, I can. I cannot play outside in the summer after 9 a.m. because it gets too hot. Well, don't do that.
Okay.
Get on the court
Boundaries.
at 7. Boundaries. Just as you would have boundaries around anything else, I've just had to learn to look at those boundaries, understand them, and follow them. And to your point, not be a dumbass. Like, do not go out because there's hell to pay. If I do go out on a tennis court when it's 98 degrees, I will be like you. I will be like ready to throw up, and I will be flushed red and have heart palpitations and feel like I had the flu for 3 days. Like, don't do that.
How did you get to the point where you were able to say, I know I have limitations. I've identified my limitations. I accept the reality, not only intellectually, but emotionally, because it's one thing to say, I have limitations, but you can say, I can't believe I have limitations.
Well, I think you can still live with both. You can still be pissed in the background. I mean,
absolutely.
every day when I do go play tennis, which, you know, we go hit some balls, my husband and I. We're not playing games. I'm not playing competitively or any leagues or anything. We just go have fun. It frustrates the crap out of me when I try to hit a forehand and it's just like my arm feels like a noodle. I'm like, it didn't used to feel like a noodle. It felt like a lifelong, stretched, strong arm. And it's like, I can do this. But honestly, I think of also like, I had a difficult family situation growing up with a very angry and cold and controlling father, and an appeasing mother who also sort of was absent. We had all our needs, my sister and I, fulfilled, but not emotionally. So I think I learned already then how to cope with these things. Like, if you're going to survive, and the same thing that has allowed me to survive the death of my child, you have to pull on these things where you identify, to your point, you identify what is the problem, just like you would identify any other problem in your life. I have to do my tax return, or I have to take my car to the mechanic. Here's the problem. Here are the different solutions. You have to become, it's not that you're distanced from it, but you have to become very pragmatic about it.
So there's an oscillation between dealing with how you feel about it and leaning into that. And then leaning into the fact of like, I still have to pay my bills. I still have to do this. I have to, which is one of the ways that I talk about coping with grief all the time, is leaning in and kind of oscillating back and forth.
Allowing yourself that sort of, it's almost like the rupture and repair thing. You have to kind of like get in and let it break, and then you have to try to fix it. I go to a restaurant now and I cannot do what I used to do, was look at the whole menu and say, what do I want? My choices of things, I can't eat tons of things now because I will literally choke on them. Soup has become my best friend, but damn it, there's a lot of really good soup out there. So, go for the soup. Don't order a spinach salad because you can't eat that, right? As much as I would want to have a spinach salad, but I'm like, then I have to be okay with that.
That's the part, though.
Right.
I think my listeners and viewers struggle with that shift that you're talking about. Because we all come from different cultural backgrounds, familial backgrounds, our growing up, all the things, what our previous lives were before the loss was, or the chronic illness kicked in, or if you've dealt with it your whole life. There's so many different variables, right? And I wonder, for those individuals who struggle with adapting, because that's what we're talking about right now, really, right, is adapting. Like, I think some people get stuck in not adapting. Like, I watched my grandmother. She had COPD, right? And that's very chronic. It can be terminal, but it was very chronic. And she did not adapt. She was terrified all the time. She would call my aunt and she lived by herself, and she would call my aunt. She would say, I'm afraid I'm going to suffocate to death. And this would be like a very, you know what I mean? And she She closed her world up.
Right.
She couldn't do anything.
And then it feeds, right? That panic of not being able to breathe becomes a panic, which makes you not able to breathe.
Which makes it worse. And I don't think that she was necessarily compliant with any of her treatment, or maybe some of the treatment was back and forth. But that psychological shift that you're talking about, the adaptation of like, okay, let me kind of put this not in a box as in it's not there.
Oh, no.
Of forgetting it,
Yeah.
right? It's there for right now. I'm going to put it on the shelf because I can pull it back down. But I have to deal with these things over here if I expect to have any quality of life. And that's what we're talking about, is quality of life.